This is the Bum Wrap. I'm Robert Bumgardner. This is part two of a three-part introduction into interviews and interrogations. Part two is going to cover the appearance of you as a detective. You've been recently assigned, if you want to imagine, to CID. You're a detective. You've taken the test. You've been selected. You've been assigned, or you got a godfather, but you're it. Your supervisor points at you, you've made an arrest, or someone made an arrest, and the sergeant says it's your turn to do the interview. You're expected to do this. What is your appearance going to be as you're walking through the door? Some of that will depend on the police department that you're working for. What is the general uh, attire that detective wears? Uh, when I originally started, uh, it would be a dress pants, dress shoes, button down collar, dress shirt, tie. We would have a suit jacket. We wouldn't wear the suit jacket into the interview room. And nowadays, it's very common for police departments to be wearing the 511 cargo pants, fatigues, web belt. They may have a polo shirt, short or long sleeve. What I see a lot of nowadays on TV is that because of the electronics and identification, there's a lot of current detectives like to wear lanyards around their neck. They've got a one or two or three cards that has their picture on it. It may have a magnetic card for getting having access through different doors. Generally speaking, you'll have a detective badge, a police badge. Highly recommended that you not wear a holster into the interview room. The other night, I actually saw a video of a police department uh, detective. It might have been a supervisor. As he was presenting himself in the interview, he actually had a police radio attached to his belt, to his pants. Yeah. There's a lot of ways to present yourself in an interview room to talk to a perp. I mean, if you're going to do all that, why don't you just drive the police car into the through the front door and let them know who you are. Uh, take all that crap off. You know, whatever your clothing of the day is, what your police department calls for. Here's a good idea. Make sure that you're squared away. Make sure you trim. Make sure your gig lines are straight. Take all your badges and necklaces and all that other crap off and everything and make yourself look professional. I'm not saying that you have to wear a suit and tie. I wore a tie and a dress shirt. The generation before me, everybody that wore a shirt, it could be any color that you wanted as long as it was white. Uh, things change. I mean, the bottom line is that when you're walking into the interview room, you're going to have a certain amount of given authority, but you don't have to dress up like come in looking like a clown because the circus is in town. Your perp's probably got a pretty good idea of who you are. The more professional you look, the more professional you act. Part of your appearance, part of your pitch, and it's one of the tools that we have in our toolbox, is your voice. You know, how you talk to someone. There are certain things that you can't get around. I mean, if you have a certain type of voice and so forth, it may be based on who you are, your age. One of the tones that you want to get away from are those voice commands that you learned in on the road in uniform, which is very authoritative. Just the facts, hands up in the air, get up against the wall. a commanding type of presentation uh, of authority that probably saved your life in the past. It certainly did mine. However, this is not going to be very beneficial when you're working with a perp face to face. The level of your voice, the volume, how loud it is, everything that you're doing in terms of the way you're speaking should be you should be thinking of it in your head, and you should be if your voice is loud, it's got only for one reason. It's because it was necessary at the time, and it's a tool. You've got good cop, bad cop. That's a traditional uh, technique that's been going around for decades and so forth. I've actually done the good cop and the bad cop by myself because I didn't have someone else to play the other role. And a major part of the interview, of the interrogation, it is a role. Uh, the way I present myself, the way I'm trying to make the connection. When I say I'm trying to obtain a confession, that's an overall term. What I'm referring to exactly is I'm trying to obtain the truth, whatever that is. I've done a lot of very vigorous interviews and interrogations, and the truth is that the target that I'm talking to, didn't commit the crime. That doesn't mean that I changed my style or I didn't use as much effort in obtaining the confession as I could, but I was after the truth, and the truth is really what this is all about. Sometimes the truth is your target, as convinced as you are that they committed the crime. They didn't commit the crime. So your appearance and the way you present yourself to the perp, you've got a room, a chair, a table. Uh, try to when you're talking to the perp. I know that we would work a lot of hours and a lot of days straight and so forth, and there'd be a lot of fatigue involved, caseload. Uh, but sit in your chair and look directly at your target, your perp, and try to look interested. If you did an investigation, if your team was working on a case for weeks, months, or years, and it's this week's big case, this particular perp killed everybody in his family. Don't do the lounge chair, laid back and eyes shut and looking the other way, or God forbid if you're sitting there and you've got a notepad in your hand and you're going over your notes and your head straight down towards the table and you're not even looking at the perp that you're dealing with. I don't take notes uh, when I do interviews. I don't spend a lot of time looking down at the table when I'm doing interviews. What I want to look at and how I want to set things up is face to face. The perp that I'm looking at is the most important thing in that room. It's not my notepad, and I should have already obtained all the notes that I need for the case before I ever got in there. The the perp and if you act as if you're interested, concerned, if you're looking right at your subject, it it's an important day for him. Uh, Obviously, you'll get the confession or not within the next hour to 3 hours. Ever how long you could keep this person talking. At some point in time, the courts will make a ruling against you is that you actually got the confession and you took too long to get the confession, which has happened to me. Uh, did a lot of hard work, couldn't get the confession. Another team went in, they got the confession. It went 6 hours or something of that nature. It was a domestic killing, and the confession was suppressed. It wasn't anything intentional, but first one team went in, then another team went in, and then the perp finally confessed to the murder. The Superior Court threw that out, said that we had violated their rights, that we had taken too long to get it. So when you're when you're getting your interview set up, you walk in, you look sharp, you look professional. You're going to make an immediate impression on the person that you're talking to. They're going to be looking at you. Uh, One presentation that I would give right now is of a older gentleman that's been doing this for a while with gray hair. Well, it wasn't that way when I started. I was a younger man and I had dark brown hair, and I looked quite a bit younger. Uh, there's certain things that I can't change. Um, and some suspects or perps would be a little bit more worried about an older detective with gray hair, that I might not be uh, I might not be the person that's going to let sunshine get blown up underneath my skirt, and that may worry a perpetrator. Which, when I do these podcasts, I'll refer to an actual case of a gentleman that killed a baby, and we had several detectives that were involved in the case. And when it came down to do the interview, the perp refused to talk to me because of my appearance, my age, the fact that I had the gray hair, the fact that I was so calm, and he was told me in his own words he was concerned that anything that he would say to me, I didn't look emotional, I wasn't upset, I wasn't mad at him, is that he wanted his attorney, and he thought it would be a good idea not to give me a formal statement. We went to trial on that particular homicide, and prior to me formally advising him of his rights and putting him in an interview room, I had a young detective just take a statement at the scene what happened, because fire and EMS was at the location, and the perp was saving the child's life with CPR. So we got some pretty good circumstances from a written statement, on a written statement from a good Samaritan. Uh, and then he was placed under arrest at the hospital when the child was, pronounced dead and so forth. And I think we were able to substantiate some trauma to the child. But I used a very young detective, and he felt comfortable with a young detective. So once he started this, what happened? We just got here at the hotel, and he gave a full written statement, that was documented and so forth. But my appearance did not work out very well. Uh, it was a first for me because he kind of took exception to the fact that I look like an older detective that couldn't be lied to. Rather disappointing. We did have a conviction on the child case and trial and so forth. But there are some things that you are responsible for in terms of your appearance. How you're sitting in a chair, how you're looking at the suspect. What do you do with your hands? You know, if you these are all these are all tools, and you don't want to put your perp off by being, overly commanding and so forth. You could put your shirt tail in. You can't change your age, or you can't. I'm not suggesting that you dye your hair or something of that nature. Uh, but look professional. That is every detective's responsibility. And you don't need all the trappings of the circus clown to walk into an interview room. I actually went to a Superior Court suppression hearing, and the hearing was based on the fact that the perp thought I was his public defender. I never said I was a public defender. I got a statement from him. He was very disappointed when he met the public defender. So before we ever started the trial, we had a suppression hearing, which I won because I never told the perp I was his attorney. But I gave the appearance of someone that cared, and he was under the impression at some point, some level of his mind, that he thought I was on his side. And I was on his side right up to the point in time where they closed the bars on the cell. or they close the metal door nowadays for the modern jails and prisons. I'm behind you all the way. I'm your friend. I'm your buddy. That's my appearance. The less you tone down the commanding persona that we're all familiar with and try to make this human connection right off the bat, the more successful you are going to be in interviews and interrogations. The part three, which is going to be another freebie, will be the interview room itself, or what I like to refer to as the theatrical stage. This is Robert Bumgardner. It's the Bum Rap, and thanks for your time. We'll go on to part three here in a minute.